I'm not gonna lie, this whole semester was a blur, but I did it, I finished, and I am now going into my 4th semester. Hey everyone, my name is Kristen and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I just finished my 3rd semester of nursing school, so you know what that means. I am here to talk all about my semester 3. So if you want to hear all about my Peds, OB, and community rotation this semester, just go ahead and keep watching. Alright, before I get started, I do have a video that I recorded when I hit 1,000 subscribers, so I'm gonna go ahead and insert that right here. Y'all, today is the day I hit 1,000 subscribers. I just want to say thank you so much. I literally looked at my phone and I was so excited to see 1000. You have no idea. I'm so excited. I am going to be doing a giveaway for hitting 1,000 subscribers, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Once again, thank you so much. Oh my god, this is so exciting. I haven't forgotten about making videos. I've just been really busy with school, finals, and everything that's been going on, but I do have a video coming out. Not on my upload schedule, but hey, I'm still gonna upload it to keep y'all informed on tips and tricks in nursing school, and I haven't forgotten. Once again, thank you. Oh my god, this is so exciting. But I really just wanted to say thank you so much for watching my YouTube channel. I had no idea where this YouTube channel was going to take me when I started it back April-May time frame. I honestly was just giving people tips that really helped me because I know I learn a little bit differently than most people, and I have mentored in the past. I actually mentored freshman students who were on academic probation, and I also mentored freshman students who were coming in to the program that I was in back when I was an undergrad. I'm so grateful that y'all have found my videos so helpful. And of course, I'm still here, still gonna be posting videos, but I just wanted to say thank you. And I even started a Facebook group all about nursing school, nursing advice. I know I'm gonna be trying to do like posts every week so I can keep you updated not only with my journey, but just make sure that you're inspired throughout your nursing school journey as well. So feel free, I will leave that link below if you want to join as well. I know I haven't posted many videos in a couple weeks. I know I've been traveling. I came home and then it was the holidays and then I had finals. I wanted to post a video all about how I was studying for finals, but I'm gonna go ahead and still post that just a little bit later. So y'all have a better idea of going into my 4th semester how I start studying for finals even earlier than normal. So I will get that video out there, and I am going to do videos all about each of my specific clinicals and specifically what to expect with each clinical. So I have all those coming out too. I have a lot of free time over my holiday break to go ahead and just keep recording videos. So of course, keep on watching. So now let me go ahead and get into the video. My 3rd semester started at the end of August. Now I was already back up at my school at this point in time just because I was told that clinicals were supposed to start right away. So I never actually ended up coming home. I stayed in my apartment. I was taking OB, also Peds, and community. So OB is all about mother and baby nursing. So you get to learn all about the things that could go wrong during pregnancy, how to assess a mom before, during, and after pregnancy, and how to assess a newborn. Now, there is a lot that goes into OB nursing. Think, you have one patient that you have to worry about, and then once the baby is born, now you have 2 patients. You're always gonna wanna make sure in OB that you're thinking about not only the mom, but the baby as well. So this whole subject was so new to me. I mean, as a female, yes, I understand like the reproductive cycle very well, but there's just a lot to OB nursing that was new to everybody, so just don't be shocked like when you get in there and you're just like, I don't know what any of this is, because a lot of the nursing students kind of learned all of this firsthand, and this is the first time we were saying this information. There was a clinical aspect with this class, and of course I did everything I would have been able to do before, but now we're also doing like fetal heart tones, so we want to like hear the heartbeat, and we're also doing that newborn assessment as well if the baby has already been delivered. So there was a lot of content in this class, and I couldn't even cover it all and kind of tell you what it all entails. You kind of just have to get in the class. I really did enjoy that class more than I honestly thought I would. I absolutely love NICU. Still hoping that one day, that's a dream of mine to get into a NICU, but I honestly wouldn't mind starting out on a mother-baby unit. So I also had Peds this semester, and in my opinion, Peds was very similar to Med-Surg. But when we're thinking about Peds, we really want to make sure that we incorporate these developmental stages. So we have to make sure that as a nurse, we're thinking about the patient and what they understand, how they understand things. So when we're explaining something to them, we want to explain it in the developmental age that they're in right now. So a great example of this is, think about an adolescent. They can pretty much understand almost everything that an adult can. They're able to think abstract, out of the box, but a 2-year-old toddler doesn't understand the way an adolescent does. So in peds nursing, you learn how to incorporate therapeutic communication with each age group, and you're also trying to understand the best treatment outcomes for that specific age group as well. So you're almost wanting to think med-surg, but the main differences that you want to look for are definitely those developmental stages and how would you treat the different age groups, because treating an infant is definitely a little bit different than treating a preschool aged and an adolescent. So that was something that I mainly focused on when I was in peds, and that really helped me do well on those exams because I knew I wasn't studying med-surg, I was studying for a peds exam. And a big tip that I could tell you to take away from peds is make sure you learn those developmental stages at the beginning of the semester because they don't ever go away, and guess what? You're gonna need to know them for the final as well. Peds also had a clinical aspect to it. The hospital that I was at did not have any specialty units when it came to peds. It was all just one floor. The ICU was on one side. We had a step down unit and then just the general med unit. My hospital was more like in an X formation, so it was very easy to just know which side was which. So I did get placed in all the sections in my peds rotation. Now the only thing about peds that was a little bit of a downside, I could not administer any medication. So that really includes like getting to learn how to use the pumps. I couldn't give any injections. I couldn't hand out any medications. So I feel like I did miss out on a lot of learning in my peds rotation. I definitely did as much as I could. I did a head-to-toe assessment when I could. I definitely talked to my patients when I could. So a lot of my peds rotation was a little bit slower, but I'll get more into that later. Now, the last class that I was in was community, and honestly, community was everything that was public health nursing, outpatient, anything that was outside in like a regular clinic. We focused a lot on like vulnerable populations, and then we even learned all about like school health nursing and interpersonal partner violence, as well as child abuse, all these just like other random topics that kind of don't really fit into a specific category in my other classes, but they kind of just lumped community to be that outpatient, like public health aspect, and I actually really enjoyed that class. The only thing that really made me upset about community was just my professor didn't have a textbook, so it was very hard for me to figure out what I needed to know for these exams. There's just so much content in community that it would have been nice to have had a little bit of narrowing down on the information. So trust me, I also understand when everybody comments below that they have professors that don't tell them what to focus on. I completely understand. I know how frustrating that can be, but you know, I tried my best in community to figure out what I needed to know even after going to office hours all the time, but it is what it is at this point, and I'm just so glad that community is over. Community also had a clinical aspect as well. In general population, they were all older, and you know, that older population, they're just big kids, and they're so fun to talk to. But I did get to give out flu shots. If I was in the wound clinic, I got to learn how to wrap a wound. If I was in the GI clinic and they were doing procedures, I did get to help take vitals while the patient was asleep. If there was a procedure going on, I would help label specimens. Honestly, you name it, I did it. That's what I loved about my community rotation. I definitely did not take that rotation for granted. I tried to get my hands dirty when I could, and by far that was my most favorite clinical. All right, so when it comes to how my classes were laid out, I had Mondays were my OB rotation, Tuesdays I had OB class, Wednesdays I had clinical for community, Thursdays I had community class in the morning followed by peds class in the afternoon, and then I had my peds rotation for clinical on Fridays. Now, my OB and my peds, they rotated every other week in person and online. So the way that it worked was on odd weeks, I would have OB in person and then peds in person on the even weeks. So it was a little bit confusing, and I did have to put in my agenda specifically what day I had to go to the clinical site because you would just like lose track of which week was even and odd, you know? So one thing that I can say at the beginning of this semester, I did not have an actual like clinical day until the second week for peds. My OB was supposed to be the first week starting on odd week. My clinical instructor got very confused, didn't know that our first day was our actual clinical day. So I only had a 2-hour in-person orientation, and I think it was only like an hour long. So I did miss out on that clinical day. And by the time my next OB rotation came around, the second week I was online, third week was Labor Day, so we didn't have any rotation that day. Fourth week we were online again, and then finally the fifth week of school I got into OB. And I'll talk a little bit more about OB clinical as we go on, because I feel like that clinical unfortunately was such a dud for me, but I did love the class though, which was really nice. Community clinical, I did not start till the fourth week. We had these self-paced assignments that I got to do during my free time. So the Wednesdays that I didn't have clinical, I focused on doing those assignments. And I also used that extra time that I was supposed to be in clinical focusing on my other classes as well. So at the beginning of the semester, I did have a lot of free time, and I honestly used that to study for peds and OB. Now, getting into the groove of peds and OB, it's all new information. So my first peds exam was all about the developmental stages, and although I know a little bit about psychology, a lot of it was new to me, except for when you get into like the diseases. Like I said, I feel like that is like a med surge. So if there's anything that I can tell you from this video is really learn med surge, because once you get to peds, it's so easy for you to do well, because all you have to memorize is the differences between a peds and adult patient. That's really all you had to learn, and then just understand the developmental stages. And that made peds so easy for me to kind of just study for and know what I needed to learn. When it came to peds and OB, I was doing very well at the beginning because I had a lot of time to focus on those classes. I aced both of my first exams. I got like a 95 on the first OB, and then I got a 93 on the first peds exam. Now community, I somehow managed to get a 97 on the first exam, but let me tell you, when it came to community, I was very confused. I constantly told my professor, I don't know how to study for this class. She literally had these like modules that we had to go into on our online web course site, and the modules had so much like web links and information. I was just confused because every time you clicked a web link, I didn't know where to go. And I was like, do I need to know this whole web link? How are you gonna test us on this information? And then she would have a PowerPoint that literally was 80 to 90 slides long, and constantly would tell us during class, oh, you don't need to memorize this information, just have a good general understanding. She's like, you don't need to know numbers, don't know the pictures, don't know the charts. And I'm like, okay, then what do we need to know if you keep telling us that we don't need to know this information? So a lot of it was me kind of just going through the notes, just trying to have a good understanding of why I need to know this as a nurse. That kind of helped me do well, I guess, on the first exam. I don't know what I got before the curve, but I was told that the curve was very generous on the first exam. I ended up somehow getting a 97, but I really struggled studying for community, and throughout the semester you'll see how my grade went down because I didn't know how to study. And every single time I went to office hours, I would explain to my professor, it just hasn't clicked for me yet. I feel like I'm just memorizing this material, and although it is very easy, when you have a nursing style question, it makes it that much more difficult to apply the information if you don't know how to study for it. And I'm sure all of y'all understand exactly what I'm talking about right now. More towards the middle of the semester, I started applying to jobs, either for like a CNA, an SNA, or like a PCT job. Now with all that's going on where my school is, a lot of places unfortunately aren't hiring. It's been very difficult. So I actually, for my third semester, really did want to take time and have a job like on the weekends. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and I'm hoping that maybe for my fourth semester I can find something. But I know that I did take a lot of time around the middle of the semester trying to apply for jobs. And when it came to OB and peds, I could definitely tell my second round of exams were my lowest scores. I mean, granted, an 82 and like an 88 aren't very low, but they were the lowest for me. With me being so sick in the middle of the semester, unfortunately, if you go back to one of my videos, I have like a life update of how I got really sick. I could definitely tell that was affecting my school. The material was honestly, I think for the second exam, just very confusing for me. It was all very difficult material as well. I could definitely tell my third semester was my hardest semester so far, and I think it's just because peds and OB is so new. And Now that we're kind of getting into the middle, I guess towards the end of the semester in this video, my OB rotation got canceled twice. There were virus outbreaks within the hospital. The hospital didn't want us to come back. I only had a total of 3 OB clinicals. Now, let me tell you, I was learning all this material in OB that I did not get to apply to a real patient. I was actually in the NICU for 1 day, and I didn't even get to do a newborn assessment because I was only allowed to observe in the NICU. So I really only got to hold the baby as well as just take vitals. And you know, that's okay because I thought I was gonna have the opportunity to do a newborn assessment with another patient. And my second OB clinical rotation, I was at an outpatient clinic. So I only really got to see like pap smears being done and like little outpatient procedures like an IUD being inserted or the little birth control that goes in the arm like taken out. When my third clinical came around for OB, I was actually very excited, a little nervous too because I got assigned to be with the labor and delivery charge nurse who was actually in the postpartum side that day, and she made me do everything. So it was really nice that I got to chart on my own, that I got to kind of have a little bit of a patient load and do things on my own. Like, she was very trusting in me, which was very helpful because I did get to know kind of how stressful it is to be a nurse. But the patient that I was assigned to had already given birth and her baby was actually in the NICU. So unfortunately, I did not get to perform a newborn assessment on her baby as well. So I do admit my third clinical rotation in OB was probably the most successful, most action I had all semester in OB. And then after that, the last 2 clinicals did get canceled. So I didn't get to see live birth, which was very disappointing because I did hear students at the other hospital were seeing a live birth every single clinical shift. So I do feel like depending on the location of your clinical can definitely hinder you from having a great experience, or if it's a great facility, you can have honestly a great clinical experience. You know, it kind of comes with the territory of you never know what's going to happen in clinical, and that's kind of what my OB rotation was like. Now, when it came to peds, which is also another funny one, I mainly worked with teenagers. The youngest patient that I had in peds was an 11-year-old. The rest of them were all 17 and 18. So that was another disappointment that like I really wanted to work with the peds population because I feel like that's another area or aspect of nursing that I would honestly love to go into. But I know that we have to work with the patient population that we're given. Because of the virus and how we're all kind of sheltered right now, a lot of children aren't going to the hospital with what they normally would be going to the hospital with. So I was definitely trying to stay open-minded and really just learn from all the trauma patients that I had. I did get to see a lot of gunshot wound patients, a lot of just like violent like motor vehicle accidents, saw cut through hand. I did get to see a lot of trauma patients, which was honestly not something I thought would be super cool, but ended up being very interesting to learn about. So if anything came out of peds, it was that I did get to see some pretty nasty wounds, and I did get to see the care behind how all of that works. So now that I think back, like now that I'm at the end of the semester and I think back, I have no idea how I would have handled having clinical 3 days a week. I'm actually very grateful that I only had 2 clinicals a week and like peds and OB rotated. That would have been a lot, and I probably wouldn't have been able to post as many videos as I had this semester, just because of how crazy my schedule would have been. Come towards the end of the semester, I felt like I had a much better handle on just the course load itself. OB ended up becoming a huge review for my 3rd exam, so I really didn't have a lot of new information that I learned, just because we kind of looked at like the overall pregnancy process and then kind of everything that would go wrong in pregnancy. I feel like we had already talked about all the information, but we just went a little bit more in depth for the 3rd exam versus like the 2nd exam. By the time peds ended, we literally went through every single organ system and all the different disease processes that could happen and how it related to the peds population. So I do just want to say, before finals came around, I did study about 3 weeks before finals. I felt like I needed to go back and really hone in on learning the 2nd exam material for both peds and OB. Now, community, I only had 3 tests. I didn't have a final or anything like that. So for my 2nd community exam, I did get a 92, which in my program's an A-. So I did have a solid A going into the final. But here's where things turn around. So when going into the final, once again, I was still very confused on how to study for community, and half of our material was on this test 3. So there were over 500 slides for the final exam, so I was a little bit overwhelmed. I didn't know how to study. And when it came to Peds and OB, I knew what to expect on the final, so I wasn't too worried about those exams. Now, when it comes to final grades, I did end up getting an A- in my community class because I ended up getting an 86 on the final, which I don't even know how that happened because I thought I honestly did a lot better than I thought the final was. But you know, that's always how nursing exams are. And I think by the time community was over, I was so done with that class. I studied how I did the whole semester, and I tried my best to do the best I could. I was honestly okay with the A-, and I don't ever want to look back at community again because even trying to ask my professor for help, I wasn't getting anywhere. Like, I was told that on the NCLEX, a lot of community is just going to be those therapeutic communication questions. So I was a little annoyed with how this semester went, especially with community, because you know me, I really try my best to study the best I can and not just to memorize the information. And I felt like that's what I was doing throughout the whole semester. We ended up having to know numbers. We ended up having to know charts. All this information my professor told us we didn't have to know. It ended up on the exam anyway, so I was done. By the end of the semester, done. Now, when it came to Peds, I ended up at a 93, which is also an A-, and when it comes to OB, I was at a 91.9, and my school doesn't round, so that ends up being a B+. At the end of it, I'm just grateful that this semester is over. This has been the most challenging semester of them all, and especially with me getting kind of really sick in the middle of the semester, I think I did pretty well. So if there's anything that I learned from this semester is don't underestimate Peds, OB, and community because they are very difficult, and I still did so many practice questions. I didn't really change my method of studying that much. I tried my best to do the best that I could on all my exams, and I definitely came out of some of my exams very disappointed because I thought I knew the information, and then when I was tested on it, I was like, oh. Granted, when it comes to me finally sitting down and studying for the NCLEX, my plan is to start this winter break. I'm going to do like a 6-month NCLEX review. I'm not planning on studying super heavy right now up until maybe like 2 months before the NCLEX, but my goal is to at least review the information that I really struggled with going all the way back to the beginning of my program. Because I do have 5 weeks off. I really don't want to take all this time just to not do anything. I do want to keep my brain kind of focused on nursing school. So I am going to start studying just very slowly, maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day, just pull out a book, go over something that I didn't really understand or go over something that I really don't remember. So if y'all are interested, I will definitely post a video about how I'm kind of going through and studying for the NCLEX 6 months beforehand, just because I know some of these concepts, like in Peds and OB, were definitely a little bit more difficult for me to kind of grasp. And of course, Med-Surg, I feel like I need to go back and review Med-Surg just because that class was difficult within itself. All right, y'all, thank you once again for those 1,000 subscribers. I am so, so grateful. You have no idea. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Of course, we'll go ahead and like and give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course, put any suggestions that you have down below, questions, comments, concerns, in that comment box. And of course, I always want to tell you good luck on your nursing journey.